mortgage rates jumped to a 23-year high as the Fed continues to pause rates. But is the rate hikes going to continue? Because that is making banks fearful right now that if the Fed is going to do more damage to the market than it's already done. And then we're seeing the real estate market needing 6.5 million homes just to catch up with the demand. So housing prices continue to stay steady. So what's this mean for mortgage rates and the housing market in the future? Well, we're brought on our good friend, Brent Starts, today from Unitas Lending, and he's going to help us with all of these questions. So don't go anywhere. Hi, my friends. If this is the first time you've been to my channel, my name is Lee Brickey, and on this channel, we talk everything real estate in the Palm Beaches and the Treasure Coast. So if any of that interests you, then you're going to want to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our real estate tips and tours. And with that said, let's bring on our good friend Brent Starts from Unitas Lending and find out what he has to say about this crazy real estate market. Hey, Brent, we're back together again this week with another update on what's happening out there in the crazy, crazy world of real estate and the U.S. economy. So let's get started and go through a couple of articles that just came out recently. So mortgage rates jump up the 23-year high. We saw that happen last week, and that is causing banks to still run scared. I mean, it's still a conversation that's going on. Federal Reserve, are they going to make things worse by raising rates? Because they're still jawboning that they are. So we'll talk about that too. And then the U.S. housing market is short 6.5 million homes. That's a problem. So let's talk a little bit about the Fed and what's going on with them right now, and what your thoughts are, Brent, on rates and what the Fed's plans are.
Yeah. The Fed, they release a statement about every 6 or 7 weeks. And as far as in their Fed meeting, the Fed governors get together and they decide what direction they're going to take the Fed funds rate. And that basically sets the tone for the prime interest rate. It sets that directly. So it affects credit cards right away, auto loans. Mortgages are mortgage rates go up and down every day. So it's not really tied to what the Fed, but it does certainly impact it as it trickles down through the economy, their decisions.
Right. Well, so right now we're seeing the equities markets taking a beating. They're up and down. Today they're up, but they've been taking a beating, and as the market goes down, the yield goes up. So
that's right.
Mortgage rates really just took a leap last few weeks.
Right. Last 2 or 3 weeks, it's been a rough ride. But mortgage rates are dependent upon data as it actually comes in. I'll give you an example. The personal consumption expenditures report. It's a favorite gauge for the Fed on inflation, and that's really what they're doing. This their mandate is to maximize employment and keep price stability in place. In other words, inflation and recession, finding a balance. And so inflation, obviously, we've all seen it at the gas pump, the grocery store. So inflation needs to be brought under control. So that's why they're raising interest rates. That's why we're seeing what we've seen over the last year and a half. And that PCE report, the inflation report that came out this morning at 8:30, basically indicated that the last month over month hike was only 0.1%. So that's really good news. The year over year came in at expectations at 3.9%, but that 0.1% versus a 0.2%, that's a big improvement. If you annualize that, it'd be 1.2% annualized if we stay on that pace. As the higher months that were taking place a year ago are dropping off, that hike of only 0.1% rather last month was welcome news. Interest rates improved on that news. So we're seeing, a technical reversal in mortgage rates this morning as we speak. So it's going to be data dependent. We've got a jobs report coming out next week. We've got all these different things, the auto strike. We've got the possible government shutdown. They're auctioning all-time debt as far as the U.S. Treasuries because the deficit is in the spending in Congress. And so a lot of stuff will impact rates with mortgages. But generally speaking, I'm encouraged. I think we could see a choppy ride down on the rates, but it will be choppy. But I think we're going to see lower rates in the future for sure.
Well, two things. Number one, listening to the equity markets and listening to the experts, the Fed job owning like they are
Yeah.
causes the markets to fluctuate because it builds in instability. And there's a thought pattern out there that is their intention, that they don't want to raise rates again. But the more they jawbone about doing it, then they end up keeping the market in flux, and therefore stocks stay low, mortgage rates stay high, and the economy continues to pull back as people right now are really struggling, especially with these gas prices, man. Gas prices are on the rise again. And so that is a real problem, I think, for the Fed, as far as just discussion of them, is how do they rein in inflation when gas prices are now on the rise again. I think they're $95 a barrel
Yeah,
right now. So
right.
oil
Yeah,
prices and gas
3.5 months.
prices are, $4
Three,
here. We're close, and we're approaching $4 in Florida and California. They're at $6 and $7.
Right, that's right, and Lee. That's a super important point, because fuel, in other words, oil, impacts everything. You have to have oil to produce goods. You have to have oil to distribute goods, and so it's passed through to the middle class and lower class. Actually, it really hits them hard, and has a big impact as far as inflation. So no matter what the Fed does, they can't raise rates any higher. Really, I think the NAR came out, their head economist came out today and said, hey, the Fed can't be raising rates anymore. And so
Right.
they because really it's oil, and
It's
that's a
oil. Right.
forward. And and my personal concern with it is that that's a forward-looking stat, because as oil goes up in price, we won't see that for 2 or 3 months in the price
Absolutely.
of goods.
Absolutely.
You know,
But right
so
now in
that
California, I heard this morning, people are having to decide whether to buy food or to buy gas, and
that's right,
that's a terrible situation to be in. And this inflation is crushing the middle class and the poor. And it seems like Washington today just doesn't care. And then the Fed, this is the second time we've seen the real estate market get destroyed by
mm,
the federal government and the Fed making policy changes to benefit themselves again. So there was
right,
no reason for the Fed to come out and say that this was transitory. That was a mistake. He shouldn't have done it. He knew better. And we were hearing that. And when it was happening, everyone was saying, "What is that transitory?" They come up with new
right,
words. So,
right,
anyways, not to go
right.
too far with this,
No,
but it is a
it
problem.
is an important point, though. It's a really important point you bring up, because I think, raising rates, at some point in time, that is only bad things, right? And if the underlying thing is, we can't keep bring the prices down of everything because of oil, and not only that, Lee, but you alluded to it with being both a Democrat or Republic problem. It absolutely is, and you're going to see, potential government shutdown next week, right? And
Right,
we
which is
all know
always
that,
just a ridiculous thing. They do this
right,
every time, and it's a big ordeal, and it never happens, or it happens for a day or two, and then it always comes out to what they were planning on doing before. It's
right.
just, again, our government not working properly.
It's politicized 100%. They all know that the end game is that they're going to work something in within hours, but it gives them a place where they can stand and talk about it, get exposure, and hopefully get reelected in the next cycle. And I think
Right.
that
I've
that's
gotten
that.
where, and I know you're this way too. I've just gotten where I can't even watch the news
I
anymore. I
know.
turn it on for 10 minutes and I just want to throw up. It doesn't matter what channel I'm watching.
Yeah.
I can't stand it. So I've been trying to read and pay
Hmm.
attention to some people I follow, markets folks, and just to stay up to date. But turning on that TV and watches the news is just depressing. So
You got to
I've been
follow
saying,
follow the people's motives. That's what you have to
right,
do. And what
exactly.
are you seeing with your eyes? What do you watch the talking heads on TV? What, you got to, am I seeing this in the real world? Am I seeing this at the grocery store? Am I seeing this in the public square? And I think that we really need to discern, if you will, the facts, right?
Right.
And really dial it in. And so that's why, I listen to multiple, folks that I respect,
Exactly.
that don't have an agenda. Right.
Exactly. Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the what you brought up with this Fed pause, because
Yeah.
The Board of Realtors did come out and nationwide, and this article came out, just like you said, Fed pause rates hikes, a relief to real estate question mark. And I
Mhm.
don't really think that um, the rate hike stopping is a relief to real estate. And I don't think that uh, uh, prices going down is going to be a relief to real estate, because what I feel a relief to real estate is inventory. And
Right.
so we have a massive, massive inventory issue in this country right now. And we can look at this article. It says U.S. housing starts plunged to 3-year low, but building permits spike. Now
Right.
this is builders moving from a bad market, but predicting a better one. They're
Right.
predicting the market to move forward in the future, and so they're building in these. They're starting to put more building permits in, and I know in Port St. Lucie they're just not stopping, and they're sitting
Right.
on a lot of inventory. And I'm about to put out a video on it, but there are big incentives out there, anywhere between 7,500 to 70,000 in Port St. Lucie and in the Treasure Coast. And
Mhm.
then in Palm Beach County, I mean, you could get up to $200,000 or $200,000 worth of incentives. They're doing screen enclosures and pools and everything that you can think of to try to sell
Right.
these homes, because they're in the 2 million mark. They start in the million.
You
So
bring up a
that
very good point, Lee. Very good point, and I don't want to just glaze over this because it's really important that you're talking about statistics and people that are making business decisions on what they're seeing in the front lines. They're
right,
seeing that they're seeing interest rates as a temporary circumstance, and they're seeing that down the road, that those permits spiking is, hey, we see lower rates in the future. We see demand not easing. They're way, I don't know, 6 million units shy, I think, of demand right now nationwide.
right.
So it's kind of like, they're in the front lines. They're seeing the demand. They're seeing what people are saying. They're hearing front row, like you and I are hearing. Hey, I'm waiting until rates get down to the sixes again, or I'm waiting until they get to the fives. And that's a tremendous number of people that want to purchase a home or just waiting for the opportunity. And that opportunity, I believe, is coming as inflation eases and the Fed pauses. And I think that's going to turn things around pretty quick.
Right. And this article kind of shows it, what you're saying. Home prices are expected to rise in 2024. There are simply not
Mhm.
enough homes to meet demand, says
Mhm.
economists. And then when we
Right.
look at this article, Redfin reports home purchases fell, though, at the highest rate in nearly a year in August. So it's like people will read one article, right? But if you don't read the next one, you feel like, oh, wait, we're heading for a crash. But there's just not enough inventory, because inventory seems to be coming from 3 different places. So big question is it a good time to buy, is one of the big questions people keep talking about. And what you were speaking about before is what Barbara Cochran has been saying, is that housing prices are going to go through the roof when rates come down. And
Right.
they just need to come down in the fives, because at the fives, then if you're sitting on 40, 50, 100, $200,000 in equity, like a lot of people are at these low rates, you can buy down the rate with some of that equity.
And what we need to remember too, people are always waiting for interest rates to drop. And well, rates were held to zero essentially. Now remember, the Fed funds rate was at 0 to 0.25%. That's basically free money that the banks could borrow money from the Fed and turn around and lend it. And they have to have a profit margin. We found that that profit margin is somewhere around 2.75 to 3% as it relates to mortgages. And that's the long
Mhm.
and short of it, right? And so, and as far as, we're talking about pretty thin margins when it gets down to five, so,
Right.
because they have their cost of funds that they still need to pay as well. So it needs to be profitable for everyone. So I agree 100%. I think that, as inflation starts to cool and we start to see layoffs, we start to see, hiring practices of large corporations being cut back. That's really, frankly, it's what the Fed wants to see. They're looking for that. And so the jobs report next week is going to be a big report that comes out at 8:30 a.m. next Friday. So we'll be watching that closely because the Fed's going to look at that and inflation as far as their decisions moving forward. And, they've done really what they can. It's all about
I
oil.
think they're at the finish line, because
I do
if they
too.
go anymore, they're going to hurt banks. We're already
Right.
seeing retail stores filing bankruptcy, the most bankruptcies we've seen. in a
Right.
long time, and that's going to continue to happen if the Fed
Mhm.
just keeps cranking rates up and crushing the market because retailers are not expecting, except for Amazon, they're the only one, but Walmart is cutting back on what they're
Mm.
paying new employees over the holidays. They're not expecting near the sales that they were expecting last year, and Amazon says that they are, but we'll see what happens. But retail's not doing well right now. So
No.
with the
Credit card
retail
debt's an all-time
industry,
high.
right, right, with retail going on and with what's happening with what's happening with the banks, I think the Fed's going to have to hold. So go
Mhm.
back into, is this a good time to buy, Brent? I mean, I
Yeah.
personally, to get you started, I think that it's kind of a personal decision right now. I mean, we're seeing some people move from lower rates in their homes that they have now into higher rates to get into a new home and get some
Mhm.
of these incentives towards that new home. But just more importantly, because they just feel like they need a bigger home. And then we're seeing a lot of people hanging back, waiting for something to happen and for rates to come down a little bit. And I know you and I both agree on this fact that, you know, we don't want anyone to purchase a home with us unless they're going to put themselves in a better position than they are now. Putting yourself into a house poor position, I don't think is a good idea.
No.
And I know you don't either.
Right.
So, what's your thoughts on folks that are first time buyers? And then also, what's your thoughts on folks that are thinking of selling their home and moving to a new home?
Yeah, it's individuals, circumstances, dictate the answer to that question, right? I mean, if someone needs to move, they need to sell, or they need to do something. Obviously, they need to, but we want to make sure it's affordable. And there's so many, strategies, if you will, to make the home more affordable. The 2-1 buy down, the 1-1 buy down, the 1-0 buy down. Ways that concessions can lower that payment for a year or two, and make it affordable so you're not house poor. And then to like I say, interest rates are a temporary circumstance, and so I wouldn't want that to hold anyone back from the benefits of home ownership and the big picture. I shared the story. My first home was $44,000 years ago, and now it's worth 400,000. Would have been
Right,
paid off years and years ago, right? And so you can't lose sight of, like, if I was renting that home, I'd still be paying $3,000 a month in rent to rent that same home. And so, you have to keep in perspective the big picture. Is your payment going to be $300 higher for the first 2 years before you get an opportunity to refinance? If that's kind of where you're at on the, and that's where the, people that look at this stuff every day, all day long, that's basically what they're saying, for,
right,
350, 400,000 starter type townhome or home. And so I think that, that really should be, the decision. Certainly you don't want to be in a position. I've seen you talk people out of purchasing a home, Lee, because it just wasn't going to fit in their
oh,
budget.
I'm
And
talking people out of selling their homes right now too.
right,
If
you
they
are.
don't have a clear cut plan, um, they shouldn't sell. I mean, that's
No,
just all there is to it. I mean, I probably got 6 listings that I've passed up already this year,
right,
because of clients calling me up saying, "Hey, I want to sell and buy a new home." And I'm like, well, it's really dependent on the market where they're in and
right.
what they can get for their home and what the new home is going to cost them. And a lot of
Hmm.
people, and sitting on these low rates and with the market the way it is, and especially in Port St. Lucie, like Palm Beach County market is a total different market. If anything's under $900,000 in Palm Beach County, there's multiple offers on it most of the time. If it's a
Isn't
nice
that
home,
crazy?
it's
Yeah,
crazy.
I
If
mean,
it's under 400,000, there's multiple offers on it between
right.
Vero and the Treasure Coast. I mean,
Mhm.
we just did one. We had a purchase. We had multiple offers. But with that being said, in Port St. Lucie, with all the new construction, we're seeing a little bit of more of a gap in what you can sell your home for right now. If you're in the scattered lots or in one of the communities, we're seeing prices kind of bottom out about 20 to 30,000 less than they were last year. But I think
Mhm.
that they've hit that bottom now. They're not going anywhere else. But because new
Mhm.
construction's continuing to go up in price, but right now there's a lot on the market, and the builders, this is kind of our slow season too. October, September to October, it tends to be a little slower in the market normally, but it's very slow right now because of rates. So there's big incentives out there right now. So there's incentives on a lot of new construction where people can buy, they can buy down the rate, and they also can pay their closing costs. And I mean, when you're getting a $40,000-$50,000 incentive, you can do a lot with that, especially if it's flex cash and you can use it any way you want. And then the flip side of that is on a resale, we're seeing seller credits depending on the house. So if you're up in the fives and fives and sixes in a home in Port St. Lucie or anywhere you can look at getting a seller credit. So it just kind of depends on the market and where the house is, and every market in Palm Beach County is different. Jupiter is much different than the Wellington market or the Boca market or the Delray market or the Lake Worth market or the Gardens. I mean, it's just the markets are different depending on where they are and what the prices of the homes in that market are and how desirable they are.
Another strategy that we've talked about and worked with folks on, Lee, was when they turn their primary residence into a rental, keep that low interest rate, and then move on to the home that they need to downsize to, or their dream home or something like that. And that you have, the instance I'm referring to, they have a $400,000 house, turn it into a rental, purchase their $600,000 dream home, and they have $1 million in real estate appreciation on an average of say 4 or 5% a year. If you do the math,
and the rent's helping pay their cash flowing $2,000 or $3,000, and it's helping them pay the mortgage on the new home. And that's something I think people, when they're looking at reselling their home, looking at, okay, if I can't sell my home for what I want, can I rent it, take some cash out of it, maybe take a loan from my 401k, which would be even cheaper, right? Use that money for a down payment on a new home, and then just rent that home and take the money out of it to pay the rent, or to take the equity out of that home and move it to the new home. So those are, I think, you got to sit down and really crunch the numbers when you're thinking about doing all this, because I think it's very, very important to people that they don't put themselves in a bad position right now with so much uncertainty in the marketplace right now. It's hang on. Yeah, it's a big decision right now. So, and I know people always say, they leave the comments, you and I are in the real estate business, so we want to sell properties, but we have made a point of being in business for 9 years together now. And we have always sat down and talked about, because we've done so much with first time buyers in the past, that we've sat down and looked at it and said, hey, is this something that these people can really afford? And we've told people, hey, look, we've told clients, hey, you need to work down, maybe you want to hold off a little bit more, save a little bit more money. But, the Dave Ramsey thought of life, because I know he put out a video and information on buying a home right now. And one of his things is, put 20, if you should buy a home right now, because it's easier to get into the market, and you're not going to buy a home for less than what you're going to buy it for right now. In the future, once rates come back down. But his other thing is, having 6 months in the bank and 20% down, and the majority of people can't afford that. And in the 6 months in the bank is, hey, for some reason you can't make your mortgage, you lose your job or whatever. But in my, we do a lot of rental stuff, and we have investors we deal with, and we know like 30 days after not paying your rent, you're out, but a mortgage, right now, the banks are working with people, because there are potential foreclosures out there right now, and especially here in Florida. So there are potential foreclosures out there, but the banks are working with them because they're cash heavy right now. And so they don't want foreclosures in the marketplace. And they know, like everything else, that this is all going to pass. So they're trying to keep that from happening.
So they're working with people, and there's still foreclosures are, still pretty much all-time lows, because every
all-time
loan
lows,
because of,
you
all
can
these
sell
loans
the house. For most people, if they're in a foreclosure situation, they have equity, so they can sell the
100%.
house.
They have tremendous equity, especially here in Florida.
Hey, Brent, thanks a lot for joining me today. I really appreciate it. It's always good to get together. Our information, both Brent and I's information, is on the screen right now. So if you would like to, if you just want to give us a call and talk, I have that happen all the time. People would call me up, say, hey, Lee, what do you think about the market? What do you think about this community? What do you think about this? Hey, I'm always available for a conversation. we do this because we love to do it and we love to help people. So that's what this channel is all about. We built a community of home buyers here and sellers, and that's really our goal. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And I know Brent's the same way. Give him a call, talk to him about programs, where he thinks things are going. Go ahead and run some numbers and see, Lisa and I are thinking about making some moves here. We've been running some numbers and thinking about, what we want to do as far as our situation goes. We have 2 children that just left the house. So we're kind of empty nesters now. And so we don't, we're looking for, where we want to be now. So go ahead and reach out to Brent, and he would love to talk to you. I know you do. And
absolutely.
All right, Brent, thanks a lot. Thanks for joining us today. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. Also, tell us what you think's happening with the housing market in the United States and where you think rates are heading, because we'd love to hear from you, and we always answer all your comments. And if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right there. Ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our real estate tips and tours. And you can find out more about how to purchase a home and what's happening in the market right there. Be kind to each other, and we'll see you in the next video.